It is 9:05, so I'm gonna get started. First thing I want to do, and usually what I'll do is I'll start with announcements. Yes, I was talking about it as a joke earlier, but the YouTube video that I posted, if you're still confused about things or if you're not doing things correctly and people are messaging you every day and you're like, why the heck is everyone on me? You need probably it's either your ADA pose or you're not doing your work. Either way, you need to make sure you're doing what you need to do. Check out the video to help clarify a little bit of the stuff. AP exam. So I told you guys last week that the AP exam was going to change, and that we were waiting to see on what essay would be. It will be a rhetorical analysis essay. I don't know that much in detail of like how the exam's going to look like, but that's the one that they've chosen. Now it's I have some little facts, but I can talk. I think once I have more information from Miss Jones, um, we're kind of waiting on information from College Board too. But uh, the essay, so it'll be like you can have some notes. So it'll be open notebook. You just can't talk to people, and you can't be. I don't remember. You can't be on like the random searches on the internet. It also wastes time if you're searching things up on the internet, so it's pointless. But you will be able to have like maybe some notes. Victor, can you please mute yourself? Thank you. Um, so that's what I have so far. It's rhetorical analysis. That's about the extent that I know. The next thing. So this week there will be no journals. The reason I want to do that is one, I'm changing journals a little bit because now that I have more information on that it's rhetorical analysis, I want you to practice it. So it'll kind of be like the article of the week from that one time we did it. So I might go back to that, but I also will. Um, I'm four. I think I can admit that I'm still figuring this out. But four was a little much, and so I'm gonna cut it down a little bit. But this week we're gonna put a pause on journals, and we're gonna go ahead and do um, where I want you to focus on your reading too. So that's the other thing. You guys chose a book last week, reading. If you didn't choose one, I chose one for you. And so you'll get added to the discussion board or like a blog post, but it's just a question. If you receive that question, it means that you are the one who has that book. There were a few people that I moved. There was in my sixth period, well, all of them. I think I reached out to everyone except my two people in my sixth period class. If you chose the book Educated, there was only two people. I'm gonna switch you. I haven't talked to you about it, but you can still try to pick another book. I think it was Alicia and Landon. There's only two of you guys, and it's such a long book that for it to work, I need you guys. I would prefer you pick something else, and you would also be the only two in the grade level. Um, on your free time, if you want to read any of those other books, go for it. I mean, you can literally download the PDF and keep it and read in the summer if you're bored. I'm sure Miss Smith would appreciate that you guys are doing something in the summer. Um, sorry, I'm just going over my checklist. Talked about the AP exam, no journals. Yes, in Power School, I've gotten the okay to put in grades, so I did start putting in journal grades already. I think I've only done second period, but my goal after class is to finish everyone's up before lunch. It's just kind of hard because you can't really scroll through too much on the like every time I click next, if I do it too fast, the computer freaks out. But it's not the computer, it's just Google Classroom. I will talk about reading blogs more in depth. I put it up there, but I'm going to pause it. Right now, I just want you to start reading the book, start reading for everyone from page 1 to like 47, I think is the cutoff. Like wherever that chapter ends, some people it's page 44, some people it's page like 49. It's so 47 is the cutoff for most people. Just read until then. Don't worry about the reading blog. I will give you more details. I also have a syllabus that I'm finishing up just so that you know what's going on with my class. I feel like it was kind of all over the place. So I'm trying to organize it better for you guys. And I think that syllabus and along with a syllabus quiz will help kind of pick and clarify a little bit. I also reorganized Google Classroom so that it has everything by week, so you're not having to click in different places. But those are my announcements. I know I threw a lot of information at you guys. Remember that I'm recording this, so you can always go back and review things if you need to write them. If you're still using your planner, great job. Keep using it. Just because it's online and you're at home doesn't mean you're not in class. So it'd be good to help with organization. All right. So now for the actual work. So like I told you guys, they chose for the AP exam for it to be a rhetorical analysis. So I made sure that this week's work is rhetorical analysis. Excuse me, it's rhetorical analysis. I'm going to use that. Well, it's the assignment for tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow, for Thursday, but I'm going to use that as a guide to see what I need to work on for rhetorical analysis. Feel free at the bottom if you just want to, like, I'm struggling with this part of rhetorical analysis, to write it in there. That's totally cool. Sorry, I'm going to screen share. Okay. So like last time, I want to go over this just so you have an idea of what you're doing. For this, not like last week. Last week was a little bit confusing to have one whole packet and then you're like, turn this in or don't turn it in. I broke apart the packet, so now it's like Tuesday work, you finish it, you turn it in. So Tuesday work, finish it, turn it in. I also realized I jumped in really quick. Did anyone have any questions for the announcements before I start this? I can unmute you guys. No questions? Everyone good?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, AJ. All right, so then I'll get started with this. So we're gonna look at John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. And so this is a whole deconstruction part. So I will go over the first part. But also to backtrack a little bit, when I record these, I might be going a little fast right now because really I'm just trying to go over it. Look at the YouTube video, even though you're in class right now, I would say so you can follow it along. It does help because you can always pause it. Right now I won't stop talking because I don't think you have this in front of you, and some of you guys are on your phone, so you can't be multitasking, which is fine. But just remember you can go back and watch this and then pause when you get to a certain part. But I will be going over all the Tuesday work for today. So the first part is going to be you're going to annotate the text. So you're going to read the prompt and deconstruct it before you annotate the text. So remember, when you get your rhetorical analysis, the very top part has your prompt, and it always gives you a little bit of insight of what's going on. So for instance, this on January 20th, 1961, John F. Kennedy took office as the 35th president of the United States. His election was one of the closest in American history. He won a significant number of electoral votes because he appealed to urban voters. He won the popular election by a narrow margin of only 100,550 votes. Dang, that's very little. That's like about the size of, I think, just McAllen. Read Kennedy's inaugural address carefully, then write an essay in which you analyze the rhetorical strategy. So here's the prompt, right? Analyze the rhetorical strategies Kennedy uses to encourage the global need for freedom and peace. So the really cool thing about how this is made, or like how the prompts are, is that it basically does a big chunk of soapstone for you, or space cat. So for instance, if I were to label these, who's going to be my speaker for this? Someone jump in.
JFK.
JFK, thank you. So here's my speaker. All right. And then So with Space Cat, I've got the speaker, purpose. What's going to be my purpose here?
His inaugural address?
Well, that's the occasion.
Oh, yeah.
But what
Well,
does
I
he
mean,
want us to do with that address? What is he trying to convince, or what does he want people to do, his audience to do?
I guess to be informed about the closest victory.
So he's making a speech about how close the election was. What else could it be?
Prove that he's going to be a decent president?
Is there any mention of that in here? So your prompt always gives you a big idea of what it is. He's trying to encourage the global need for freedom and peace. Right. So whatever you're looking for in the actual article or in the actual not article, I'm sorry, in his speech, it has to come back to how is that rhetorical strategy helping him encourage the people, his audience, whoever that audience is. It's up for you. You guys are going to be the ones who look for that. He's trying to encourage them, encourage the global need for freedom and peace. So what is he doing to help promote that or push that idea? So you'll be going through this. It's literally breaking down just like I did right now, right? What details from the background information are most important? So what's something that I might include here? From the background, that would be this section.
The date.
Okay, so date. So this is 1961 because it provides context, right? What else might be important?
The number of votes.
So yeah, he won popular vote by 118, 550 votes. And then list what a successful writer must do in his speech. So what is it that you would have to do, in your speech, in your writing response? Remember, this is rhetorical analysis. So in order for you to get points or get it right, what is it that you have to do? Anyone? Oh, I just realized you guys were talking on the group chat. So what do you normally do in a rhetorical analysis essay? Let's backtrack. Like in an argument you're writing, you need to make sure you provide a position, you provide evidence. And here, in order for you to be successful, what is it that you have to do? So yes, so Angel finding rhetorical strategies is correct. And then Juliana, in this one, there's not multiple sources, it's just one text. So you would have to analyze the strategy. So it's not enough just to find them. Yes, you need to find them, but you have to analyze them. If you don't analyze, if you don't tell me why, you don't connect it back to the triangle of Sam, which is the speaker, audience, and message. If you don't tell me why the author would have chosen that rhetorical analysis and how it helps them reach their audience, if you don't answer those questions, then you're not analyzing.
Is this the one where you use BAT for the intro?
This is the one, you can use BAT on all of them. When you're doing BAT, you're looking at the background info, so you have the background here. The advice would be, read the address carefully is one of them. But then there's no two sides, so advice is a little tricky here. But the task is still there. So it's right here at the bottom. Analyze, and I can use red, but Write an essay in which you analyze the rhetorical strategies Kennedy uses to encourage the global need. So you could still turn this into a question like you would, right? You turn it into a question is, what rhetorical, or actually not what, but how do Kennedy's rhetorical strategies encourage the global need for freedom and peace? Now, I did change it from what to how, because it's not asking you what those rhetorical strategies are. It's asking you, how do those strategies help encourage the global need for freedom? Does that make sense? Like, you're connecting it back to purpose. So this is the first part. You're breaking it down. I did the first two, or part of the first two for you. Make sure that you finish them up if they're still. I think the second one is good. It's just make sure you include any context that you find for the first one. Then you're going to think about the choices here. And so this is where you start talking about, or before you even read, you start thinking about what are some of the things that he's going to try to do. Is he going to, this is a speech, right? So is he going to try to repeat points? Is he going to try to use use imagery? What are some things you might find for this type of speech? Now, these are guesses. You don't have to go and cheat and look at the speech or anything. You're just trying to figure out, like, trying to think ahead. What might I be looking for when I start reading? And then the same thing, what issues might Kennedy raise since the speech is given the day he takes office as president of the United States? Right. This guy just won. He is the president. He's taking office. He's ready to go. So there's some things that he might talk about. And if you've watched like either Donald Trump's or Obama's, I think those are the only ones you've been old enough to see, you might know what an inaugural address might look like. Based on Kennedy's close margin of victory, what might Kennedy need to accomplish within his speech? What else, right? What else is the purpose of this? So the next part you're looking at is going to be the transcript of Kennedy's inaugural address. So you have the whole thing. Now, I know it's kind of hard to analyze this in the way it's written. I know some of you have a printer, but don't print it. This is really good practice for how it's going to be on the day of when you take the exam, because you're going to have whatever speech it is up on the screen, and then you're going to have to be making notes somewhere of your analysis, because you don't have you won't have a paper in front of you, right? So just make sure that you guys are reading through and analyzing and annotating as you go. Have a separate sheet of paper if you need to. This is a really good way to kind of start practicing the skills you're going to need for the day of the exam. So we have the speech. You would annotate on here. It is a long speech, so it goes down to 2.5-ish pages. The good thing is there's a lot of like space in between, so it's not like it's like just all the way through. So when you do this, activity 2 is going to have you, so read it first. Activity 2 has you actually look for specific things, right? So you're going to highlight the element of the rhetorical situation presented in the prompt and throughout this text. This gives a clear focus for annotating. So when you're annotating, annotate for Space Cat. And if you're a little bit confused as to what Space Cat is, it's all down here. So you're looking at the exigence. So here's the E. Author's credibility is the appeals. Audience, right? This is a speech, so why is this appropriate? Doesn't necessarily apply to one. You got purpose, and then these kind of go with context. So it's not every single thing, but these are important for you to look at. And so you would be answering them. So here, give the information on the rhetorical situation. And you can find some of these in the prompt, right? The exigence is the spark. Why is he giving this speech? And it literally tells you there, he just won the presidency. And so related rhetorical choices and strategies in text and possible purpose. So here's where I would mark, well, he repeats the word victory. This is wrong. It's not an example, but this is what you would put, right? He's using repetition. That's not an actual example, but I'm just giving you an example of what answer would go there. Does anyone have any questions so far on what I've gone over? I went over a lot. I should really start slowing down. Sorry. I'll get better at these, I promise. Thank you, Landon, for the response. I do have it. So this is the only thing you're doing for Wednesday, or not for Wednesday, I'm sorry, for Tuesday. This will be due Thursday at 8 o'clock. It's a little before class starts again. Move the page back up right here. Bless you. Oh, to the first page, I'm sorry. So remember, I'm recording this, so don't feel the need to like rush and write notes and things like that. So I'm trying to be better, but what I'm gonna do as soon as I finish this, instead of jumping into anything else, I'm gonna just cut off to the very beginning and the end, like where questions are asked or where we're just kind of waiting, and then upload it on YouTube. It takes a little bit because they're kind of long, but the goal is always to have it before 12 o'clock. I'm hoping the internet's been slow, honestly, that's the biggest reason. All right, so this is all I have for everyone. I'm gonna stay on like last time so you can be working on it, and if you have questions, I can look. But otherwise, you guys are free to start working. Now, it's 9:30 right now. If you do this right now, you can probably finish by 10:30 and just submit it. So don't feel the need to like, okay, I'm done. I'm just gonna go back to sleep. Y'all, this time, like, it's a recommended time for a reason, and I do it like this for a reason, right? It's 9:30. I finished lecturing. The stuff that I just talked about might be fresh in your mind. I would go back and get started. And yeah, some of you can eat breakfast too. So that's all I got. Does anyone have any? You need to finish, the actual assignment. So you got to finish, it's the first 4 pages. So up to this graph. So you're going to break down the prompt, read the text, and do like initial annotations, and then finish the little graphic. So it's 3 things. Anything else? Yes, it's 3 things, guys. I promise. I looked through this. This took me like 20 minutes, and I always multiply it by 3 or 4, depending on what it is. This shouldn't take you more with an hour or hour 15 minutes. I'll do by Thursday at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. I'm sorry. 9 a.m. is my class.
Question.
Yes.
Can you give us an example for purpose? Because I'm kind of confused, like what I would write for that.
Purpose. So your purpose is what they want you to do. So whatever the audience wants you to, or the speaker wants the audience to do. So for instance, my purpose here, I'm just gonna write it here. So my purpose as a teacher, right, giving this lecture, is to explain the assignment students need to complete. So there's an action that I want you to do, and there's information associated with that action. Right. Let me see. I think of another one. So you guys as students, right? Students, their purpose is to learn material being taught by teachers. So again, there's a verb of some sort right here, and then there's a the stuff associated with it.
Mr. Dan, quick question.
Yes.
For the question, what are some of the rhetorical choices that might be present in the angular address? Can I put ethos, pathos, and locals?
So those would be the appeals. You can just write appeals. I mean, those, not that they're not strategies, but like he has to use one of them. So it's not like he's like, okay, so you have to pick one. Like, which one do you think he would use? Because he's going to use one of them. So pick one that you think would be the one, because it's an inaugural address and it's the president. Do you think he's going to use logic? Do you think he's going to be appealing to our emotions? Like, what do you think he would be doing?
Appealing to our emotions, no?
More than likely, probably.
Okay. Yeah, it's because I forgot what was the name of quick question. What's parallelism again? You know how that's one of the rhetorical devices?
Parallelism is it's the pattern of the way sentences are. So for instance, sorry, I accidentally got by Nicole. I accidentally got the wrong pencil. But when you talk about parallelism, it could be a couple of different things or in different ways. So every morning, that should be separated, but every morning I eat breakfast, feed the dog, and wash dishes. So the pattern is my verbs are all in present tense. The way you can also see parallelism is like repetition of like a phrase. It's an example. It's like a kind of like an aphra, but you would have every morning I eat, every morning I feed the dog, every morning and every morning I wash dishes. Bye, Victor. Liana, it's not necessarily that you avoid it in writing. It's more like typically when they do parallelism, they're trying to repeat something. So every morning is repeated, right? They're trying to repeat something to drive a point. So exactly, like Angel said, it's for emphasis, right? So if I were having a fight with my girlfriend who's telling me that I'm not doing anything at home, be like, every morning I eat breakfast. Every morning I feed the dogs. Every morning I wash the dishes. That's not a fight because we all do the dishes. But it's to emphasize things. Apparently, yeah. It was just an example. I didn't know how to say it. But like depending on the context, Yahida, it's how you use it. But that's parallelism. Bye, Jennifer.
Okay.
Liana had an aha moment, I think. Also, Liana, you have to remember a lot of these are like speeches or letters. Like the context of it is very informal. So sure, in sentence form, it doesn't look like it's very good, but when it's a speech, it's a little bit different. Question B at the top. List what a successful writer must do in his written response. Don't overthink this. This is literally asking you, what do you have to make sure that you use to answer this question? So I'm gonna erase this. So in a rhetorical analysis, for you to get points, right? What do you have to have in there? What do you have to tell me? Anyone? So for one thing, you have to have a thesis, but what is your thesis? Usually in rhetorical analysis, what would the thesis include? Okay, I should realize that you're struggling with this. Well, not necessarily diction, but I mean, diction's one of the things, but like your thesis needs to include it's your position or a clear position on what you feel the author, a clear position
And the
on
art claim or purpose.
the rhetorical strategies speaker makes. Right, so you might say something like, in his speech, JFK uses a patriotic diction to help unite everyone and remind them of peace. He uses parallelism or he uses repetition to really drive in the point about freedom. Like, you need to make sure you answer the prompt. Or I guess that is, in other words, answer the prompt. You also need to make sure you analyze strategies. Sorry, it didn't fit. You need to make sure, yeah, your strategies are the choices, correct. You need to make sure that you talk about tone, audience. What else? Now that you know tone, audience, what else might you need to include in here? Oh yeah, Haida said it too, but purpose. And the context, a lot of it is for you so that you know what the heck is going on. Because, I mean, if you think about it, in 1961, what are some things that may have been going on? Your context is not necessarily explained in the thesis. I'm currently so your thesis would include the type of speech it is, or like type of text it is, so a speech, the author's name, the audience, your the three choices that you're going to talk about in your paragraphs, and the tone and purpose. So your context would be, I guess it would be in the intro right before it. It would be like in 1961, John F. Kennedy just won. He won by a very close margin, the presidency. He took over in a time of great, I don't know what the heck was happening in 1961, but that's what the context is. You want to include it at the very beginning. 1962. Yeah, it was toward the end of the baby boom. I forget when Vietnam is. Is Vietnam in the middle of this, or is it pre-Vietnam? Cold War. So it is during Cold War. Cold War. I mean, technically it was from like 1945 to 1990. Vietnam War. Yeah, so November 1955 to the fall of Saigon on April 30th. Hey, that's my birthday. 1975. That's the Vietnam War. So yeah, I mean, Liana, that's a very good point. I mean, yeah, I was like, was it Liana? But yes, that's potentially why he wanted peace, and you could even include that on there. He wanted freedom. He wanted to push that freedom and peace thing. I mean, they're in the middle of a war. Why not convince Americans that we need freedom, right? If communism is something that they're so against, and communism is in their eyes the opposite of freedom, that might be one of the reasons why he's trying to push that.
Miss, can you go back to the questions?
Yes, I'm trying to. Sorry, my iPad went to sleep. Well, these are the questions you're talking about?
Yes, thank you. For the third one, Miss, when I add word rhetorical choices, I need to put in examples, right?
Can you repeat that? I was coughing. I was low-key dying.
Oh, when I put for the third one, the third question, when I put the rhetorical choices, I don't need to put the examples, right?
No, you just put because you're trying to guess what kind of things you're gonna see. So, for instance, we talked about how he's taking over and he's trying to push freedom and peace, and you said pathos is something he might be leaning on, or leaning on the appeal of pathos. But when you use pathos, some of the choices you might make are like imagery, repetition, right?
Yeah.
Pathos isn't necessarily a rhetorical choice. It's more of like think of it as an umbrella, and if you were like a category. So if he's using a pathos, he's going to probably use some of these. Can I review rhetorical strategies? Let me write this at the very bottom. Sorry. Sorry, I'm just trying to make more space. Dang it, there's no space. Wait, so some rhetorical strategies. Well, you have the ones that I've always told you to lean on. So you have diction, right? Syntax, which is your word choice. You can't just say diction. You got to tell me like what kind of diction right before it. So like patriotic diction. I don't know how that would look like, but exaggerated. Like you have to put an adjective before it to describe the type of diction. You have syntax, sentence structure. We talked about parallelism, which is a pattern in a pattern of words in sentences. Of words
Personification.
Phrases. Yeah, personification. Imagery was the other one I wanted you can also lean on. Right, descriptors. Field. Senses.
Simile and metaphor-ness could also be one.
Metaphor. Similes. Some more popular ones that fall under parallelism are like anaphora, which is repetition of phrase in the beginning. Oops. So that was like my good morning one. That's an anaphora. Epistrophe is the other one. Repetition of phrase at the end. So a government by the people for the people. That's the people at the end is what repeats, and that's an epistrophe. I misspelled repetition.